Hey, Michael from Black Snow Comics here. Today is August 1st, so that means I've completed 7 months of my 2019 daily drawing challenge, where I'm drawing something new every day in 2019. Pretty self explanatory. And that means I've done 212 days already. So let's take a look at what July had and kind of discuss some of those drawings. So, like other months, let me start by saying you're going to see it small here. If you want to see the drawings bigger and in more detail, you could follow on social media, or you could go to blacksnowcomic.com, and there's a 2019 daily drawing gallery. And one thing that I noticed earlier this month when I was looking through the gallery is there's about 5 pictures that never got put up there, so I got those added. That was a little annoying, so a few of these videos from previous months might have been missing a photo or two, so now you could see those. And if you follow every day, I share them, so that's another way you can keep track. So July 1st, we had Jafar. This is kind of a follow-up to Scar that I had drawn 2 days prior. A lot of people have been asking me my thoughts on the Disney live-action movies. I haven't really seen many of them, to tell you the truth. I saw Beauty and the Beast. I didn't think it was much anything. Haven't seen Aladdin, haven't seen Lion King. I recently rented Dumbo from Redbox, but kind of lost interest in it pretty quickly, and so I didn't even really watch that. So my thoughts are, I don't really care much. I think it's kind of devoid of creativity and kind of a lame cash grab, if you want my opinion. I think they look a lot better animated. So there's Jafar. That was a lot of fun to draw. I love the original. Of course, I grew up 80s, 90s Disney, so I love all those old ones. And then the next day, I was really sick. I got the some kind of flu, so it was like a 24-hour flu. So near the end of the day, I needed something for my drawing, and I decided to grab a pen and paper, and I could muster up to draw this skull. And I was thinking of Mike Mignola's style, because he draws a lot of like well-dressed skeletons, so that's what I was going for here, but trying to put my own spin on it with some of my line work and stuff like that, and some of the white white lines, which I don't use as like a white pen to go over it later. I just leave those areas open when I draw it. And then I followed that up with Courage the Cowardly Dog. Very funny cartoon that I kind of missed out when it was on. I roughly knew it existed, but I've rewatched a lot of it now with my kids, and it's really weird, really fun. And then July 4th, I was having the marathon with my son and my daughter, watching Stranger Things. We watched, I think, half the season on July 4th and half on July 5th. So I didn't want to leave the area, so I just brought my pen and paper in there and decided to draw the Demogorgon. And that turned out pretty cool. And then we were watching Megamind, which I saw when it came out and kind of forgot about it. And then my daughter was rewatching it, and I felt like drawing that. This is one of the drawings where I kind of rushed it, and I could tell looking at it now where it's really sloppy, and I don't like this drawing. So then I was excited for the Spider-Man movie, although I don't think I saw it well, actually I did see it right around this time. So here's Spider-Man Far From Home villain Mysterio, and very much his traditional kind of comic book look, and using his gases and stuff. He's always been one of my favorites. I thought they handled him pretty well in the movie, and he was pretty fun to draw. And then I was away, and I just needed to draw for the challenge. I am bringing my drawing supplies, so at the house I was staying, I just found some kind of paper, like very thin computer paper, and used a ballpoint pen and came up with Batman. I think it looks pretty cool for what I had to work with and what it was. Same thing the next day. I was still staying over there, so I decided to draw Steamboat Willie. And this one I like quite a bit, actually. Thought it turned out pretty well. I mean, the proportions are not 100% accurate, but I wasn't really going for that anyway. I was just trying to have fun with it. And then I followed that up with one of the sandworms from Beetlejuice. I'm a big Tim Burton fan, and I like Beetlejuice quite a bit, and I always thought these creatures were really creepy and kind of cool. So I decided I wanted to try to draw that. It looks pretty good. I think it's very recognizable for anyone who's a fan. Then my son and I were getting back into Are You Afraid of the Dark and watching a lot of those, and he really wanted me to do the logo. So I don't do a lot of stuff like that, but I thought it'd be kind of a fun challenge, so I tried to match the font as closely as I could, and then I used effects to make it darker, like it was light coming from the flame. And then something that I don't do a lot is for the hand, I use different shades of purple, so there's no black line work or anything, and it's all done with the shading textures. And I think it looks pretty cool. Like, I could see this being on a cover of one of their books or DVDs or something like that. I know they don't have books, but like if they had a book, like this is how I'd picture it. And I followed that up with one of our favorite episodes is the one about Zeebo the clown. So here's Zeebo looking nice and creepy. He's got his cigar with him, and this was fun to draw. And my favorite part of it is the smile and the teeth. I like the way the coloring worked with the teeth. I also like how bright and vibrant he is, while also being pretty creepy. Then I decided to follow that up with Pinocchio. I don't know why. I was just in a Disney mood, and Pinocchio is one of the Disney ones that I don't think about that often, just probably because it's so old, but also because it's really weird and kind of dark. As a kid, I thought it was kind of scary. So this is what I came up with here. I really like, one of the things I think of when I think of Pinocchio is what do they call it now? Body horror or something like that. But basically, like, he has no control over his body changing with this nose thing, and I wanted to capture that. Also, the donkey stuff, scary. And then, since I was in a Disney mood and I had done Cheshire Cat several weeks prior, and I had a lot of good feedback on that, and people asking me to do more Alice in Wonderland, I decided to do, what's his name? Aslan, something, the caterpillar. But here he is smoking his hookah, and I wanted to do my own take on it. I know he's supposed to be blue, but I wanted it to look like my own caterpillar, so I didn't really base it off of any one particular thing. It wasn't based purely off the Disney looking one. And I gave him a little fez and a monocle because it kind of fit with him. And I gave him kind of a more segmented caterpillar body. And then I was still traveling, or I was traveling again, so I wasn't home, and I decided to just sketch my son wearing his new glasses. We got these hypno glasses where it's really big and has spirals, and they're really funny looking. So I decided to just do kind of a fun sketch of that. And then this one was pretty popular. So it's Oscar the Grouch looking unhappy, and then it says my spirit animal is a grouch. And my daughter, my youngest daughter, is obsessed with Sesame Street, so I see a lot of Sesame Street, and it's actually pretty entertaining usually. And Oscar's one of the things that I always liked on Sesame Street, just because like you don't get a lot of characters like that are just so unhappy and grumpy. And, you know, I like grumpy humor, so I thought it'd be funny if, with this idea of that being your spirit animal. And there's my grumpy daughter right now. Better go see why she's so grumpy. She was not enjoying our robotic vacuum, so that's why she was mad. And yes, she's watching Sesame Street right now. And I gave her a graham cracker, so I think she's happy. So let's keep going. I followed that up with the Hatbox Ghost. This is something I've been wanting to draw for a while. It's from the Haunted Mansion. It's one of the more famous ghosts, even though he didn't really appear in the mansion for a very, very long time. And if he was in there at all, which there's back and forth on if he was in there at all in the beginning, but it would have only been for a few days. But he's only recently added for the 50th or 60th, whatever the celebration was for Disney. And I got to go see it last year, and it was really cool. My son and I are big Haunted Mansion fans, so that was kind of special for us. And I like drawing this where I was focused mainly on where light would be hitting him and trying to portray him almost glowing and like you would see him in the ride. So I like that style, I like the way it turned out. A lot of my stuff that I like to do is experiment with the way light hits. Then my daughter really wanted me to draw her an LOL doll, and she loves these things. I don't. I think they're very overpriced for a toy that's about this big, with a bunch of little choking hazard accessories, and they come in big packages that are like 80% garbage. So, but I'm a nice dad, so I buy them, and I drew this. And this is one of them. I don't know which one is the one that I thought would be fun to draw. And it was actually kind of fun to draw. I like that it has the striping, it's got the big eyes, almost has a Tim Burton-y quality to it. So that's what I kind of went for here. I kind of like to redraw it and make it creepy. Maybe at some point I'll make some creepy LOLs. Then I've been really enjoying Mario Maker 2, so I decided to draw Mario Maker here and put the little I made it. One thing that I kind of like doing is adding little phrases when I can, when I think of something. And I really wanted to get the thing of like him resting the hammer on his shoulder, so that's what I was going for here, looking kind of proud. The very first thing I drew was Mario, and this was day 199. Probably should have saved it for day 200 to have a little more symmetry there. But I decided to draw another take on Mario. It's not the same as what I did before. So if it's different enough, I'll do the same character again. Better than the first one I drew, but still, it's only okay. I don't know. I could do better. Then for day 200, I did something pretty cool. I did Breaking Bad with Walter White as Heisenberg. And again, I wanted to do something that only focused on highlights. So he's kind of hidden in shadow with only showing where the light would hit him, and I really like the way this turned out. It looks almost like it was drawn with chalk on a blackboard or something. It looks pretty cool. So that's something I would like to do more with, that I go back to whenever I can. And I followed that up with Sackboy. I mean, why not? This has been a very random challenge, if you couldn't tell. So Sackboy is from Little Big Planet PlayStation series, and those are games that I thought I would love just from the aesthetics and like the style of it, and I own all of them, but honestly I've never really been able to get too into them. It's almost like PlayStation's take on trying to be Nintendo or something, but the games themselves, I don't know, the user experience just isn't there. So as much as I like Sackboy and the whole thing, I wish I liked the games more. And then after my first LOL, I got repeated requests to draw this LOL from someone on DeviantArt. So I did, and same kind of thing. It was a little fun to draw, but I don't want to draw like a lot of LOLs. I don't know, drawing like cutesy girling things has never been my forte. I like to draw more rough, ugly things, but I mean, for what it is, I think it turned out pretty good. And then I followed that up with one of my very favorite Disney characters, Donald Duck. And one of my favorite things about him is when he gets really, really angry. On the old cartoons, when he just loses it, I thought that was hilarious as a kid. So I really wanted to capture him like flipping out here. So this is him, and it's kind of funny. I based some of the pose on a picture of him where he's really happy and like jumping in the air for joy. I decided to change that and make him look really angry. So I did my best to make him look very mad. And oh, one thing I did here, and I did it with that Sackboy, and the Sackboy, the texture of him is checkered, and I use that from Clip Studio Paint. They have all these patterns and stuff you can lay down that I never experimented with. So I used it on there, and then this background is using one of their templated patterns. But I changed the colors and stuff, tried to make it a little different so it's not just standard, but I thought it worked here. And I was in such a Disney mood, I decided to follow up the next day with Goofy, since I really like Goofy also. And uh-oh, I think she needs another graham cracker. Hang on. That should make her happy for a couple more minutes, so let's see if we can power through this. So Goofy, one of my favorite things with Goofy is his physical comedy. I really like those 50s or 60s cartoons where it was him doing like instructional videos and always causing chaos, so I wanted to draw him in mid-fall, basically, really tripping. So, and then I did the same thing with the background where I worked based off of one of those designs, and I really had fun drawing this. This is pretty good. And then my son is really into watching wrestling with me now. One of his favorite things is Bray Wyatt and his whole new persona with The Fiend. And The Fiend's pretty cool. This is a mask that the wrestler wears. And I drew that where I based it off of him when he was standing in the ring and it was all dark around and you just had like limited light on him. So I wanted the same kind of thing where, like I said, I focus a lot on lighting. So this is where you only get some details popping out and looking very creepy. And then this was right after they had the Raw reunion with a lot of old wrestlers come back, and Stone Cold stole the show with his speech at the end. And I've been watching a little bit of Stone Cold matches, showing my son some of the good old days, and so I wanted to draw Stone Cold, and I wanted to get him looking kind of like a badass here, where he's got kind of the smirk, but also like the eyes, like he's gonna mess you up. And that was fun to draw. And then this is something I'd wanted to draw for a while. Finally just decided today's the day, so I drew Thor as he appears when he's really depressed and fat in Endgame, and he's dressing like the Big Lebowski almost. So someone even commented that at first they thought this was the Big Lebowski, and I think Iron Man's the one who calls him that in the movie. And this was a lot of fun to draw. I really like kind of broken superheroes and superheroes showing their flaws, so that's something I wanted to focus on here. And I gotta say, I know people were divided on Fat Thor because some people thought it was like an insensitive portrayal of PTSD, and because they're kind of playing his issues for comedy. It was one of my favorite aspects of the movie, and I've never found Thor like more interesting than when he was damaged like this, and I thought it was pretty powerful when he goes back in time and sees his mom and she recognizes him and sees what time has done to him and tries to build him back up. And it's a speech, there's a couple times where they reiterate this idea of working with who you are, not who you're supposed to be, and that struck me. And along those same lines, I followed up with Peter B. Parker from Into the Spider-Verse, which is an older kind of broken down version of Peter Parker where he's broken his back, he's a little bit out of shape, he's broken up with Mary Jane and depressed, and this is him scarfing down a burger when he's meeting with Miles, and this is actually the second burger when he takes Miles and starts eating his burger. And this is one of my favorite drawings probably that I've done this year. I set it to be my phone lock screen background. I like it that much. And this got a little bit of buzz online. People really like this one. This struck out to them. One of the things I like about it is I went real scratchy with my line work and tried to show some solid shadows, but also a lot of scratchy shadows that just kind of allude to the shadows. And then besides just doing plain shadow work where I take black and use it on a transparent layer at about 30 to 40%, I mixed in using some red and kind of blue-purple shadows here that added a little color and dimension to it, and I think that made it was all the better for it. So that's something I plan on playing with more. And I followed that up. I got a request to draw Bambi as the Black Panther. It's an old request that I got from someone on DeviantArt, and then he elaborated and wanted a lot more like kind of bizarre stuff going on with it. Blowing up a balloon of a Pokemon with the dad deer, and the Pokemon was Marowak, by the way, and wanted some of the goo from Super Mario Sunshine to be on them, and I don't know. The DeviantArt requests are weird, and the people request things from artists over and over again. So like when I look at his profile, he's got all these things of Bambi as the Black Panther. For some reason this is an image that really sticks out to him. Not to mention like some of those other weird details. I chose not to do those. He requested again and he didn't mention the details, so I decided to do it. He followed up by asking for another one where he wanted him smashed in the ground like in Smash Brothers, and something to do with the balloon. I don't plan on doing that one. One Bambi Black Panther I think is enough. But this was a little fun to draw. Bambi's such a weird, well not weird, but kind of an interesting shape because he's got the deer anatomy, so he's so skinny and lanky. It's kind of fun to draw. And unlike my old Black Panther drawing from earlier in the year, I did it based on his modern design, which I thought was more recognizable with this deer shape. If I went for kind of the old design, it would just look like he's wearing like black latex or something. Then I did something I don't do a lot. I drew the same character, Peter B. Parker, but this one's very different because he's in his full Spider-Man, and this is the first like regular Spider-Man I've drawn this year. I've drawn so many variants. It's kind of interesting that it took me so long to get to a normal-ish Spider-Man, but this is from when he's talking about his past and what happened and trying to claim he handled it well when they broke up, and as you can see he didn't. And I thought it was kind of a interesting portrayal of someone that's supposed to be like a strong hero, but we see him kind of in his weaker, more personal moments, which again, I like the flawed heroes. And then I drew Shazam, and I saw that movie recently, and I like the movie. I'll probably put up a review of it pretty soon, but I decided to draw that. I wanted to draw it not based on the movie, but based more off of kind of his classic comic design. I didn't go like full out with the cape on the side and all that. I kind of mixed classic and modern elements, but I wanted it to have kind of an old school feel, so I did kind of these I did a template with the dots, so it looks like it's got comic dots over the whole thing from printing, and then I got this line work in the background. The only thing I'd say is the dots made it a little dark, so maybe I should have done them at like a half transparency or something, but I still think it looks cool. And then finally, the last thing I drew, I decided yesterday to draw something original. So I like drawing drunks. If you follow any of my comics, I decided to draw a drunk. I wanted it to be kind of like a comedic, happy drunk instead of the sad drunks that I usually draw. So I decided there's a couple things I wanted to do here. I wanted to experiment with using colored line work, so there's no black in here except for the pupils of his eyes. Everything else is drawn with a color, and then using a lighter version of that color to color the inside. It's something that I haven't done a lot, but I've always liked. And I thought it'd be fun to experiment around with that. And then when I was drawing it, I was thinking of drawing something where he was more of like a guy from the 50s, and then I was thinking about like Brendan Stimpy and John Kay's style with the way he drew humans in it, and that was kind of in my mind while I worked on this. I didn't really look at any reference or anything. This was just from my mind and being very kind of spontaneous and cartoony, and I gotta say I really like the way it turned out. It's very, very clean, which is kind of pretty different from when I go really graphic and I really focus on the shading. Usually I use black a lot, so this is kind of a very different approach, and it's something I think I might mess around a little more with just because I really like the result. So that was July. Already well over halfway through the year now, which is kind of crazy in some ways, although in some ways I definitely feel like it. Like most months, there was days I was more excited to draw than other days, and where it was a little more challenging, like those days where I was traveling or sick or whatever. But overall, I was still very happy with everything I did, and it was fun. So we'll see. Keep on powering through. Just take it day by day. If I think about like the fact that I did 212 drawings at this point, that's kind of like overwhelming. But I think about it like, well, I just have to do one drawing today, then it works. So like a lot of things in life, you just gotta do it one day at a time. I've already had people ask me if I'm gonna continue doing this next year and just keep going and see how many days in a row I can draw, and right now I don't know. I'd like to get back to working on some comics and things, and this takes a lot of my energies away from that. But it is also like pretty rewarding in its own way, so I don't know, we'll see. Might just be nice to take a little break, but I guess that's it for now. I'll catch you later.